You know, for over 3,000 years in Ayurvedic medicine, there's this one plant that's been revered above almost all others. It's called Tulsi, or holy basil. Its nickname? The Queen of Herbs. So what happens when this ancient, almost legendary tradition gets put under the microscope of modern science? Well, that's what we're here to find out. In the old texts, Tulsi isn't just a herb. It's called an elixir of life. Seriously, it was credited with promoting longevity and healing a massive range of ailments. Now, that is a huge claim. So the big question for us today is there any real clinical evidence to back up this legendary reputation? Okay, here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with its ancient roots, then we'll see how it holds up in actual clinical trials. We'll look at its effects on both the body and the mind. And finally, we'll deliver the scientific verdict. Sound good? Let's go. So, first things first, let's really get why this herb became so legendary in the first place. I mean, for thousands of years, it's been a total cornerstone of health on the Indian subcontinent. And when you look at traditional texts like the Indian Materia Medica, the list of uses for Tulsi is just wow. It's incredibly long. It was used for literally everything from respiratory issues like bronchitis and asthma to fevers, rheumatism, skin diseases, even headaches. The sheer breadth of its use is staggering, which really tells you how versatile people believed it to be. All right, so now let's make the jump from folklore to fact. How do these ancient claims actually fare when you subject them to the, tough standards of modern scientific investigation? This is the key question, right? Can we actually find measurable, repeatable, significant effects in human studies that line up with thousands of years of traditional use? Let's see. To answer that, we're not just looking at one random study. No, we're going to the highest level of evidence. This entire explainer is based on what's called a systematic review, which gathered all the human clinical trials ever done on Tulsi as a single herb treatment. And here is the magic number, 24. The review managed to identify and analyze 24 separate human studies. This collection of research is the foundation for everything we're about to cover. Now, just so we're all on the same page, a systematic review isn't just one study. Think of it more like a study of studies. It pulls together all the available research on a single topic, checks its quality, and then synthesizes all the results. It's one of the most powerful tools we have in medical science. Okay, time to dive into that evidence. What did these 24 studies actually find when it comes to Tulsi's effect on our physical health? Specifically, let's talk about our metabolism and our immune system. So check this out. What's really interesting here is just how consistent the findings were. Several studies looked at patients with type 2 diabetes, and they found that Tulsi led to significant drops in both fasting blood glucose, that's your blood sugar level before you eat, and postprandial glucose, which is that spike you get after you eat. And the benefits didn't just stop at blood sugar. Nope. The review found evidence across a bunch of different studies pointing to a much wider impact on our metabolic health. Researchers saw better cholesterol and lipid profiles, lower uric acid in people with gout, reduced blood pressure, and even improvements in BMI. And beyond just metabolism, Tulsi seems to have an effect on the immune system. One really well-designed trial, a double-blind, randomized, controlled one, found that taking Tulsi extract led to an increase in two crucial types of immune cells, natural killer cells and T helper cells. These guys are basically key players in your body's defense squad. So let's shift gears from the body to the brain, because honestly, some of the most compelling findings from this whole review have to do with Tulsi's effects on our mental state. In one high-quality, placebo-controlled study, healthy adults took about 300 milligrams of Tulsi extract every day. The results? They were pretty clear. Compared to the group that got a placebo, the people taking Tulsi showed real, significant improvements in cognitive flexibility. That's your ability to switch between tasks, and also had better working memory and attention. And this next finding, this really points to Tulsi's potential as something called an adaptogen, a substance that helps your body handle stress. One study found that Tulsi extract led to an incredible 39% reduction in general stress symptoms. We're talking about things like fatigue, sleep problems, even forgetfulness. A 39% drop. So after digging through all this clinical data on the body and the mind, what's the final takeaway? Where does the science actually stand on the Queen of Herbs? So what are the big takeaways here? Well, overall, the evidence looks really positive. Across all 24 of those studies, Tulsi was found to be safe, Only one study reported any side effects at all, and it was just mild nausea. The data suggest it can help manage key metabolic factors, it seems to be an effective anti-stress agent, and it might even give our immune defenses a little boost. But, and in science, this is a very important but, we have to look at the limitations. The review is quick to point out that a lot of these studies, they were pretty small. Most were short-term, and a majority were actually rated as having low methodological quality, which means they had issues with things like blinding and randomization. And that brings us to the final conclusion from the systematic review. Tulsi seems to be a very safe and genuinely promising herb, with clinical data that actually supports many of its traditional uses. However, before scientists can make specific, confident recommendations, we just need more rigorous research. We're talking bigger studies over longer periods of time with much better quality control. Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. The science, even though it's still emerging, is pointing in a really fascinating direction. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, this ancient elixir of life could be a valuable tool for helping us navigate the unique metabolic, immune, and psychological stresses of our modern 21st century lives.